It was a wonderful surprise to me one day when an editor, Adriana Dominguez, who was then at Harper, said to me, you know, we ought to think of a book about Dia. We have not seen the diversity in publishing that is really necessary for the transformation that I talk about. And I have written about this a lot. I've spoken about it a lot. I'm not seeing a tremendous amount of movement. So we need to see diversity in publishing because someone selects the books that will be published. Someone selects the books that will get the full-page color ad in important publications. People on award committees decide what books will have a nice seal of approval. Children's books sound very sweet, and they are, but it is a very complex and sadly sometimes political process. That's just the nature of life. So it was such a thrill that there was actually a Latina in publishing, and she said, I would really like us to think about a book about Dia. And initially she proposed, did I want to think about a story? Well, I had already written Tomas and the Library Lady, and as an author, one of the things you fear the longer you are an author, at least for me, there is the terror that I would repeat myself. And so I am always trying to think, well, is that something I have already done? So I said, I just don't know that a story is going to work for Dia. But early on, very early on in Dia's life, the idea came to me in '96. First Dia celebrations were held in '97. This was probably right around in there that a librarian in Texas said to me, you need to write a song. And so I ended up doing sort of a little Dia song. And I thought, well, maybe we could take that song as a beginning point, and I could begin to expand that. And it became Book Fiesta. So that's how it started. I was thrilled that Rafael Lopez, who is so amazingly talented, was chosen to illustrate the book. This was our second book together. So he had also illustrated Yum Que Rico. And I knew, I've said to Rafael, I would love to live in your imagination. You know, as I began to see the images from Book Fiesta, I was just amazed, you know. A picture book writer is very dependent upon illustrators. I joke that when I visit schools and children find out that I don't do the illustrations, they wonder why I was invited. And I can understand that, you know. One of the joys of picture books is the illustrations. So he was so incredibly inventive. And I have numerous pages in the book that I absolutely love, sometimes because of the bright color, but also Raphael has, there's a real tenderness to his work. And there's a scene where a little girl puts her hand down into the water, and there's also a little girl looking up from the water, and they touch on that water, their fingers touch. And that was just such a beautiful, you know, detail. The way both the sun and the moon look down in such a comforting way on these children. And I thought to myself, you know, this is what the world should be like. We should all be looking at our children with that kind of protective smile that in Book Fiesta both the sun and the moon have toward these children.